My project sees the conceptualization, design, construction, animation, and showcase of a building. All such components call for planning, creativity, and ideas, so within the sketchbook showcase, I delved into such. I drew inspiration from others and Pinterest and formulated my initial designs. The main inspiration came from traditional Japanese architecture and designers such as Ray Kapp, an icon of the mid-century movement. In completing the initial plan, I moved on to AutoCAD. Hoping to replicate the architectural design processes as closely as possible, I produced a floor plan in CAD, which will later be used to construct my home within Blender. I outsourced some blocks and followed tutorials to grasp the program. I also ensured to add measurements, meaning the house will be at an appropriate scale. After the completion of planning, I then created the environment within Blender. Various options are shown, one even with particle emitters, but this would be too difficult to render long term. Moving on, I created trees using simple poly shapes and then a particle emitter set to a plain object with a self-made leaf image. The final environment will look as such. I then took to forming the house animation, by firstly creating the floor and walls using my CAD plan and then forming the roof on top of such, as separate elements for later animation. The Japanese-inspired windows were also formed in turn, with beams that extended the length of the roof. Glass was then also added using a node texture and the cloth that covers the windows was placed. I then took to keyframing the animation, simply setting the object below the environment and then using keyframes to make it move into the frame at desired points. The majority of the building is textured using procedural textures. I created these within Blender following various tutorials. The texture shown is for the exterior cladding and other interior elements. Now the process of creating my brushed metal texture can be seen. This was applied to the roofing of my building. Next, using weight paint and particle emitters, I finalized the environment, placing trees, rocks, and particle bushes. At this point, I also placed the home into the environment. A procedural sky is also in place in this project, seen in this video. My final decision in regards to the sky settings is demonstrated here. Now, for the interior, I drew concept sketches as seen and then worked to produce the furnishing elements. The process of creating a fiddle fig tree, the kitchen set, and a bedside table can now be seen. I used a similar method to my trees for the fiddle fig. The kitchen set is constructed using basic modelling and the same with my bedside table. However, the processes of image texturing can be seen for this object. Seen now are the other various components I modelled, including a bed, couch, table, and chair. An integral element of my project is the water simulation in both the sink and bathtub. These components show the functionality of the house and display a difficult technique. The water simulation was made by creating an outflow object and a domain. These both interact with each other to produce a simulation after baking. For the sink as well, plates have been implemented allowing further water interaction. Like the interior, sketches were done prior to the garden's construction. Then, I created new trees and shrubbery for the exterior. I also formed a pool, pond, and tiling. The pebbles utilized nodes for their texturing, and I also built a bridge across the river with inspiration from many traditional Japanese gardens. I then worked to set up the interior and exterior fly-through cameras. To do such, I set up two paths, one for the camera and one for the Track 2 object. This allowed me to decide where I wanted the camera to be looking throughout each shot and enabled a smooth animation, mirroring that of other architectural fly-throughs. I keyframed both parts and then, in turn, also keyframed the focal length of the camera, allowing for variation in shots. I also set up the camera for the establishing shot before beginning the rendering process. Seen in these photos is the render farm I utilized, allowing for the mass rendering of frames. This was done through utilizing the Google Drive and collaboration space. Then here, demonstrated, is the filming process for the silhouettes used in the showcase section of my project. Adobe After Effects was used to convert the video into a silhouette by using a key light effect in levels. I then used the crop edges and masking tools to isolate the layer. Demonstrated here is the process behind the smoke in my mug. Firstly, video was taken of the incense smoke and made transparent using the key light effect. Then Adobe After Effects was used to track the smoke object to the cup. This was done by creating a null object and then keyframing that through motion track. I then worked on an addition of mine. Using the house already constructed within Blender, I used the grease pencil tool to turn such into a lined piece that then, when a build effect was added, animated as if being drawn. 2D hand-drawn animation was then done inside of Adobe Photoshop. The composition process was done within Adobe Premiere Pro and saw the use of tools such as the razor tool and selection tool to sequence together my scenes. The project was then exported as an MP4.